Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Pad Paramahamsa, Bhagavad-gītā Ashtottara Shri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Bhagavad-gītā Ashtottara Shri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavini ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad-gītā ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta-vrinda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 8th day of November 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad-gītā as it is. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are beginning a new chapter tonight, Karma Yoga, Chapter 3, beginning on page 139 with text number 1. Arjuna Vacha Jayasi Chet Karmanas Te Mata Buddhir Janardana Tatkim Karmani Gore Mam Niyojyasi Keshava Arjuna Vacha Jayasi Chet Karmanaste Mata Buddhir Janardana Tatkin Karmani Ghore Mam Niyodhyasi Keshava Arjuna Vacha Jayasi Chet Karmanaste Mata Buddhir Janardana Tatkin Karmani Ghore Mam Niyodhyasi Keshava Arjuna Vacha Jayasi Chet Karmanaste Mata Buddhir Janardana Tatkin Karmani Ghore Mam Niyodhyasi Keshava. Chad, you want to try? That's a Chet, actually. Jayasi Chet Karmanaste Mata Buddhir Janardana Tatkin Karmani Ghore Mam Niyodhyasi Keshava. Yugala, I'm sorry, I should have asked you. Arjuna Vacha Karmanaste Jayasi Chet Karmanaste Mata Buddhir Janardana Gore Mam Tatkin Karmani Ghore Mam Niyojyasi Keshava. Leela, is it? Vrindavan Leela, I'm sorry. Arjuna Vacha Jayasi Chet Karmanaste Mata Buddhir Janardana Tatkin Karmani Ghore Mam Niyodhyasi Keshava. Arjuna Vacha Jayasi Chet Karmanaste Mata Buddhir Janardana Tatkin Karmani Ghore Mam Niyodhyasi Keshava. Okay, word by words. Arjuna Uvacha, Arjuna said, Jayasi, better, Chet, if, Karmanaha, than fruit of action, Te, by you, Mata is considered, Buddhihi, intelligence, Janardan, O Krishna, Tat, therefore, Kim, why, Karmani, in action, that's in action, Gore, ghastly, Mam, me, Niyojyasi, you are engaging, Keshava, O Krishna. Translation. Arjuna said, O Janardan, O Keshava, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work? Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, has very elaborately described the constitution of the soul in the previous chapter, with a view to delivering his intimate friend Arjuna from the ocean of material grief. And the path of realization has been recommended, Buddhi Yoga, or Krishna consciousness. Sometimes Krishna consciousness is misunderstood to be inertia, and one with such a misunderstanding often withdraws to a secluded place to become fully Krishna conscious by chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna. But without being trained in the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, it is not advisable to chant the holy name of Krishna in a secluded place, where one may acquire only cheap adoration from the innocent public. Arjuna also thought of Krishna consciousness, or buddhi yoga, or intelligence in spiritual advancement of knowledge, as something like retirement from active life and the practice of penance and austerity at a secluded place. In other words, he wanted to skillfully avoid the fighting by using Krishna consciousness as an excuse. But as a sincere student, he placed the matter before his master and questioned Krishna as to his best course of action. In answer, Lord Krishna elaborately explained karma yoga, or work in Krishna consciousness, in this third chapter. Om jnana timirandasya jnanandana salakaya chakshur unmilatamena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So this comes up again at the beginning of the 5th chapter, where Arjuna says, he accuses Krishna of bewildering him with apparently self-contradictory words, although he hedges it that way. Because we recall what happened, what Krishna was talking about at the end of the previous chapter. Peace, how to be at peace, 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 shanti. And then the next moment he's asking him to go and fight the war. So it seems to be contradictory. It seems to be that way. And especially the description of Krishna consciousness as buddhi yoga. Can be a little confusing. But Prabhupada, several places he equates bhakti yoga with buddhi yoga. Buddhi yoga, of course, it emphasizes the importance of the intelligence, of using intelligence to link with Krishna. Because the intelligence, at one point, Prabhupada, he says in a lecture, I'm not sure if in a book, he probably says it, that we work actually with our intelligence. That's the primary thing. And the senses and the mind and everything follow that. But it's that intelligence directing the mind and senses that actually is what the dynamic of our work is. So this chapter will describe the importance of engaging our faculties, if you will, but how we work in the world ordinarily, that those very same activities have to be, I love this word, Krishnized. Just like eating. You know, eating is obviously something that everyone has to do. How do you Krishnize it? Because eating can be a source of tremendous degradation, and I mean, there's several hells to describe. You know, I'll never forget if one boils some living entities in oil, you know, and to a water, you know, especially described if they're alive. I told this story before. I grew up in New York, New York. We never had enough money to go to the fancy restaurants in New York City, but I remember walking in, you know, Fifth Avenue or different places, and seeing these fancy restaurants, and some of them, they would have in the window, they have a little aquarium, and in that aquarium was this poor live lobster. You know, he didn't know what was going to happen. He's just sort of hanging out there. And they're advertising, oh, just see how fresh, you know, we'll take this lobster and put him in the pot when he's still alive. That'll really be tasty when you eat it. Oh my God, even before I heard anything about Krishna consciousness, I was aghast that someone would see that as tasty. But, you know, I wasn't much better. I was eating hamburgers, as long as it didn't look, it didn't connect, you know, with the cow or anything, you know. Yeah. So, how we act, what we do, determines so much of what our consciousness is, really. You know, you get yourself in a situation, you just wander into some association, and it can tremendously affect your consciousness. You know, let's go party, or let's go here, let's go have a rumble, whatever it means, you know. And it's this is the way conditioned life is. And the principle is the same as Krishna consciousness, your association. You know, your association with the people, and directly, and of course through media, through books, through everything else. that is all important in forming your awareness in what's important, where I can enjoy, what I should strive for, who am I, you know. You become part of a clique, you become part of a gang, you become part of a class, you know. All of these things are, we have no idea how they're affecting us, but they do tremendously. So Krishna consciousness means to be aware of the implications or the consequences of what we do, what we think, what we say, who we hang out with, and everything like this. So this chapter is very important, and it's describing how what we do has a lasting effect. This idea of karma. Karma means many things. It means activity, and it means the results of the activity. This is typical in Sanskrit. The one word, depending on the context, can mean different things within a certain quality. Just like you have the word gati. Now gati means the goal, but it also means the means to the goal. It means how you get to the goal. Every morning we sing 2 songs, those of us who are in Mangalarti, and both of those songs use the word gati to mean the means of getting to the ultimate goal. The last verse of the that we call the Gurvashtaka, used to be known as the Samsara prayers, but Vijay got to make case for that. No, we're trying to get free of samsara. It's not the Samsara prayer. Okay, all right, I surrender to that. The anti-samsara prayers. So the last verse goes like this, and it's very important, you know, to articulate the Sanskrit words correctly, because it shows that you understand the meaning. You know, I harp on this every so often, that Prabhupada went to such great effort to give us the word-by-word meanings. You know how much first of all, it's a lot of work, you know, to do it, and to do that, and understand that the reason for it is so that we can see how the Sanskrit comes to be in English. The word-by-words are the intermediary. That tells us how the Sanskrit, which we can't even read, you know, sounds like this. This system is a internationally recognized system of diacritics and things, so you can pronounce the words. And that the whole idea is it's as it is, right? This is Bhagavad Gita as it is. So Prabhupada is giving you a way to check to see that he's, you know, this is actually the translation coming from the Sanskrit, and each word means this. So in that last verse of the Gurvashtaka, I consider it the most striking, important verse of the 8. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado. Now yasya means whose, and the whole song is about the guru, so it's about the spiritual master. Who, with the mercy or grace of the spiritual master, one gets the grace of Krishna. In other words, what do we know how to please Krishna? You know, what to do. You know, but the spiritual master, he, based on the Shastra, he tells us how we can act, what we can do with all of our senses, hearing and seeing and all that, how we can be devotees so that Krishna will be pleased. And we find out that if we do that even a little bit, we try, that he's very much pleased. He or she is very much pleased in today's world. Why not? Which is very encouraging, because we don't know exactly, you know, what Krishna is feeling, but actually, there's a certain tremendous joy when you see that, okay, I'm actually doing it. I'm not doing it perfectly, you know, I'm not chanting perfectly or doing whatever else, blessing the deities, but I'm making my best effort, and Krishna is enlightening from within, and I'm doing a nice job, and the spiritual master is very pleased. So, yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado. Bhagavad is Bhagavan, is Krishna. Then the next line gives the other side, and it's very important to pronounce it correctly. Yasya aprasadad nagati kutopi. Now, in Sanskrit, when two words, one word ends in a vowel, the next word begins in a vowel, there's something called, they merge, kind of. It's called the sandhi rules. And the whole purpose is to facilitate smooth chanting. The Sanskrit will be able to be pronounced very easily. So, yasya prasadat. You see the difference? The first is yasya prasadat, meaning by his grace or mercy, one gets the mercy of Krishna. Yasya aprasadat, by his non-mercy, without his grace, that displeasing, there's no means of advancement. Gati, There's no way to advance toward the goal, toward the gati. Therefore, we should honor him 3 times a day and try to serve like that. So, and then in the other song, we have Guru Mokha Padma Bhakachita Te Kodaya Aiga Arna Kodaya Mone Asha Shiguru Chanana Rati Ese Uttama Gati Ye Pisare Puri Sarva Asha. So for me anyway, this is always the most striking verse in that song. Guru Mokha Padma Bhakachita Te Kodaya Aiga. From the lotus mouth of the words are being spoken by the Guru. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Kodaya Aika. Make it one with your heart. In other words, drink in those words, accept them as true, and try to follow them. And then he says, Arna Kodaya Manya, don't desire any others words. Don't be, flit from here to there and take a little here. It's not going to make it. You have to be one-pointed. That's what surrender means. And that's why we're reading Prabhupada's book, Prabhupada's Gita. It's not like a Gita review course in college. We have many Gitas, and we'll have a comparison and contrast and compare. No. Prabhupada is the realized soul. He's the what he would call it, a transparent via medium. Via medium, it's not exactly a transparent medium is what it means. He's giving us Krishna's. He's telling us what Krishna. He's expanding on what Krishna says, and he's basing his commentary on other commentary. He dedicates the whole book to Baladev Vidyabhushan. Now, who remembers who Baladev Vidyabhushan is in our parampara? First of all, from the name you can tell. If you know a little Sanskrit, Vidyabhushan. He wasn't born with that name. Vidya is knowledge, Bhushan is ornament. So Vidyabhushan is a name given, it's an epithet that's honorary because he's so learned. Yes. No, Bhagavad-gītā. Oh yes, it's about Vedanta Sutra. Yes, you're right. Yes, he did. Yes. I think this was first. I think chronologically. Yes, that's very good. He wrote that, and he also wrote the commentary on the Bhagavad-gītā that Prabhupada used primarily to write his commentary. And so at the very first page of the book, the dedication page, I dedicate this book to Baladev Vidyabhushan. So this is very important. Prabhupada stresses he's not concocting some meaning out of his, because there's other commentators who did that. I have them in digital format on my computer, not because I'm comparing and contrasting, no, because in reviewing the Prabhupada's Bhagavad-gītā, it's important to the first editor. I mean, it was Krishna's arrangement to send him, Hayagriva Prabhu. He did a tremendous amount of work, but he didn't know Sanskrit at all, And Prabhupada's English, as he acknowledges in the Srimad Bhagavatam, wasn't perfect. It was his second language, But he took very great encouragement from one verse in the first canto. I think you know what verse it is. Tad Bhagavasargo. There's a verse this is Narada Muni's instruction. Haribo, welcome. Narada Muni's instruction to Vyasadeva to write the Bhagavatam. Yeah, he's getting you a book. He's getting. All right, just replace that over here in case we get someone else on this side. Now it's very significant because now there are as many men as women, so it's even now. So the verse goes, actually there's two verses. They're very dramatic. The Bhagavatam does none of our books do, but the Bhagavatam is really sometimes shocking how frank it is. So here's Narada Muni. He's coming down to encourage Vyasadeva, because Vyasadeva he's written all the Vedic literatures. He's written the Bhagavad-gītā. He's written the whole Mahabharata, of which this is part. Well, that's great. He wrote the 4 Vedas. He wrote them down. They had been just orally heard. Can you imagine just trying to hear everything and then remember? That's how calm the minds were back in the day. He'd written the 4 Vedas. He'd written the Bhagavad-gītā, the Mahabharata. He'd written the other Puranas. There's 18 Puranas, and this is the Bhagavatam is the crown jewel of all of them, the last one written. So, but he was dissatisfied. After writing all of that, and there's plenty about Krishna. They were reading Bhagavad-gītā, part of the Mahabharata. Padma Purana has plenty about Krishna. But he wasn't satisfied. And Narada Muni could pick up on that, so he comes down, and he chastises him. He says, "Do you think that you can posit the mind and the body as the goals of self-realization?" And he says, the reason you're not satisfied, you have not written a book that is wholly and solely dedicated to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the process of devotional service, and the description of the wonderful activities of the Lord and His devotees. Your books have some of that, but I had a direct experience of that. Mahabharata is so wonderful because it has the Bhagavad-gītā in it. But there are parts of the Mahabharata, that are not at all related to the whole central plot of what we know is the war and Krishna coming down and everything. I'd like to tell this story. Some of you have heard it already. The BBT at one point was going to print a Mahabharata. We had finished the Bhagavatam. Vidyananda Maharaj was translating it. It's a little easier Sanskrit. As we can experience, Bhagavad-gītā is almost all these small verses. It's not difficult. Bhagavatam, we just got in the 5th canto, these big, long prose passages. Not easy to decipher exactly what's going on there. It's a more difficult thing. So anyway, Narada Muni has these verses, and the beginning of his instruction, which culminates in Vyasadeva meditating. He instructed, you meditate on Krishna, and everything will be revealed to you. And then there's a chapter, I think it's chapter 7, where he sits in meditation, and he sees Krishna in his heart, and he sees Maya behind him as a shadow. And it's revealed to him that everybody in this material world is in Maya, who's conditioned, has been covered by the material energy. And anarthopasamam shakshat bhakti yoga manhokshide. Anarthas mean unwanted things like birth, old age, disease, and death. They can be mitigated and solved by the process of bhakti yoga. But people don't know that, especially in this age. And therefore he wrote the Bhagavatam, so that the united people of this Kali Yuga could be enlightened, But the verses I wanted to just focus on for 1 second. The first thing he says, now it's getting too hot in here. What's going on? I think you can turn it off now. He says, Nayad bachas chitta padang hare yasho jagat pavitram pagunita karachit tad vaya samtirta mashanti manasa na yasya hanta niramanti shikshaya. Is that those words that do not describe the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His devotional service. They may be very nicely composed, Shakespeare, whatever, Chitrapadam. But Hare Yasho Jagat Pavitram, who doesn't mention Hari, who's the purifier of this whole universe, Jagat Pragunita Karachit, they're like a pilgrimage of crows, pilgrimage place. That's a polite way of saying like a garbage heap. Whoa. Everything I wrote up to now is like a garbage heap. Well, he didn't say that explicitly, but that's the idea. Getting the attention of his disciple. This is the Guru does it. Krishna does this. You're like a fool. You're lamenting for the physical bodies, speaking the words of a pundit, but you're not a pundit, So tad vayasam tirtha mashanti manasa nayata hangsa nidamanti shikshya. The Paramahansas, the swans. You've heard of this Paramahansa. Now this swans, they're very clean, they're very beautiful, white, and they float in the lakes, and they like to nuzzle up to the lotus that's growing there, just opposite to the crows, So the Paramahansas have this ability, and I never could quite figure out how this works. They can separate milk from water, but milk is about probably 90% water. So how does that work? I think what it means is they can filter out the milk solids, and be able to eat that. And so, therefore, they're discerning. They're very choosy about what they eat. And the Paramahansas, the swan-like devotees, are very choosy about what they hear, what they read, what they vibrate. That's the idea. So he's encouraging him to write this Srimad Bhagavatam. And he did so. And in a similar way, Baladev Vijayabhushan, he wrote the essence of the Bhagavad Gita and the commentary also on the Vedanta Sutra. it's just like an extension of the Shastra. In other words, the great acharyas, they take their words as authoritative explanations of the verses. So, Arjuna is speaking for us and says, well, what's it going to be? You want me to fight in this battle? Do you want me to use my buddhi and separate, my understanding of the soul from matter, and in this way to achieve self-realization, which you just described in previous verses, and be very peaceful, and then go back home, back to Godhead? That's what it seems. So the idea is that it's not one or the other. It's hard to imagine that Arjuna, when he at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, he says, of course, Karashe Vatanangtabai, surrender, I'm going to fight in the battle. It worked. That on a certain level, he still remained peaceful while he's fighting that battle, being fully Krishna conscious. Because, yes, he's trying as hard as he can, but he's not attached to the result. It's up to Krishna. In other words, even if he died in the battle, and that almost happened with Bhishma Dev, he would still be successful because he surrendered to Krishna. There are others who did die. I mean, Arjuna's son was murdered. I mean, they're all. The battle starts off, and everything is according to Hoyle, so to speak. As soon as the sun sets and they blow the conch shells, then they meet together for dinner. The opposite parties. Can you imagine? It's all over, and this is like part of the etiquette. But then it breaks down as time goes on. 18 days lasted, and there was just so many deaths going. And this Ashvatthama turned out to be a real rascal. He's the son of Dronacharya. I don't know if Drona had been killed by then, but he goes and he kills the sleeping sons, the boys. Now, I don't know if they brought them on the battlefield or not. They must, but they were young boys, and he murders them. It's completely forbidden to kill children, women, old men or women or anything like that. So he does that, and then the last thing he tries to do is kill the final Kaurava. Who's in the womb of Uttara. That's the name of Parikit. That's why he became Parikit. So he throws this Brahmastra. I don't know how it works. It's described like an atom bomb, but you can direct it at one person. So that's what's good. So he's very skilled at that. He does that. So Krishna personally enters the womb as a super soul and protects Parikit. That's why he's called Parikit. It means he's always looking. He's always looking for that person who he saw in the womb. But he, by the time he came, I think he was born and Krishna was already gone. So anyway, this is what's going on the battlefield. And Arjuna, he takes the full instruction of Krishna. He's fully thoughtful. He's fully surrendered. He's going against everything that his emotions are telling him. He's ready to kill Dronacharya, and he almost was killed by Bhishma Dev. Krishna had to save him. There's a whole pastime with that. But he fully surrendered. Sarva dharma parityajya mamekam sharanam. That's the final instruction. That you just surrender to me, everything will be taken care of. Don't worry about your sinful reactions. That was what in the first chapter. He's saying, I'll be responsible for these men dying. The women will be unprotected. There won't be any offerings to the ancestors. There'll be varna sankara, which means exactly what we have today. So many people growing up with no guidance, with proper guidance, And so he said, I'll be, committing a great sin. I'd rather just go and beg in the forest, And then he said, fine, Govinda, I shall not fight. He throws his bow down. He sits down on the chariot. He doesn't walk off. He sits down on the chariot and he surrenders to Krishna. Please instruct me as a guru. Now I'm your shishya. Sanskrit is such a wonderful language. Every word is constructed from these roots, And so the root of the word shishya is shash, which means to control. Shishya means someone who's willing to be controlled by the guru, a shishya, disciple. Shastra is a completely different word than shastra. Who can tell me the difference?
Shastra is a weapon.
Yeah.
Shastra is scripture.
Yes, and they both are meant to means of control. We voluntarily agree to be controlled by the guru and by the shastra. They're both manifestations of Supersoul who comes out. We cannot hear the Supersoul. He's there trying to give us good instruction, but we can't hear. We're practiced to not hearing. So he comes externally as, of course, Krishna. He comes directly, but more importantly, because he's available all the time, he comes as the acharya and as the book. of knowledge, beginning with Bhagavad-gītā, and of course the other books Prabhupada gave us. So now we have now if we refuse to hear, then we're condemned. If we say, no, not for me. So this is the field that we have to work with, trying to make people interested, trying to attract them, to at least try, take the book. Like Dvijamani, it's so wonderful, they tell the stories, in the classes. So I think it was he who was describing how oftentimes these coming back book about reincarnation is fascinating to people who otherwise would not be so interested in a book about God. He said one thing they tell you when you're training up to be a book, don't talk about God, don't mention God. Because God is there's such a freighted word. People have so many, oh yeah, my mother tried to, make me a Catholic, no way, But if you talk about reincarnation, that doesn't obviously everything about God, but it's something you can be very interested in. Did I live before? Will I live again? It's practical. So that was what this book was. It was written mostly by devotees, that book. It was Mukunda Maharaj's idea, I believe, and he wrote the last chapter, don't come back. There's plenty about Krishna consciousness in there, but it starts with some empirical proof of reincarnation. I think I talk about this. Little children who remember their previous life, they go and check on it. Sure enough, they're telling, how do they know that? So anyway, all right. So let's go back to this. Why do you engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than the fruit of work? Well, it's not that it's better. It's that you need both. With your intelligence, you learn how to work in such a way that's not fruitive. Well, what's that? It's called devotional service. We're also working. Prabhupada would often in his lectures, he would describe people who accuse us of being lazy, but we're working harder than anyone. He described himself, he's writing these books, he's traveling around the world, he's managing, he's dealing with so many problems. Plenty of work. But it's not fruitive work. That's the thing. Fruitive means that you're doing it only because you want to enjoy the fruit for yourself. You're working to please Krishna. And you discover if you do that, there's a certain joy that accrues that is not available by making money and go spending it on something you want, and sense gratification. The pleasure of sense gratification is fleeting. I'm not going to chant my verse. I chant every class, but it's such an important verse. The idea is that the pleasure of sense gratification has a beginning and an end. And it leaves you with two things. To do it again, which entangles you more, and it leaves you with karma. In other words, the result that's there that you're carrying with you now. And oftentimes you don't know anything, and so you've committed some sin, like I described eating lobster. No one goes to these fancy restaurants thinking that I'm paving my way to one of these hells. Let me look at the fifth canon and see. But that's what's happening. You see. So understand that knowledge is so important. Understanding the implications of your activities, understanding the good results of devotional service, even though it doesn't make any sense materially. Like the chanting, you try to analyze it materially. No, it must be some kind of cult. They're hypnotizing themselves, No. You're dehypnotizing yourself. The Maya is hypnotizing you to say, yes, I am this body. Let me enjoy, and identify with that, and just dig yourself a deeper hole, into Maya. So any discussion on these points or this first verse? Oh yeah, and the next verse. We're going to have to tell you about how I want to kind of adjust the translation a little to come closer to what Prabhupada actually meant here. All right, text 2. We're on page 140. 140. Vyamashrene vakyena buddhim mohayasiva me tadekam padanishchitya yena shreyo hamapnuyam. My intelligence is bewildered by your apparently equivocal instructions. The word eva appears twice in this. It says certainly, but that wasn't Prabhupada's word. In the purport you'll hear, apparently. My intelligence is bewildered by your apparently equivocal instructions. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial for me. Purport. In the previous chapter, as a prelude to the Bhagavad-gītā, many different paths were explained, such as Sankhya Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, control of the senses by intelligence, work without food of desire, and the position of the neophyte. This was all presented unsystematically. A more organized outline of the path would be necessary for action and understanding. Arjuna, therefore, wanted to clear up these apparently confusing matters, you see that? Apparently confusing matters, so that any common man could accept them without misinterpretation. Although Krishna had no intention of confusing Arjuna by any jugglery of words, Arjuna could not follow the process of Krishna consciousness, either by inertia or by active service. In other words, by his questions, he is clearing the path of Krishna consciousness for all students who seriously want to understand the mystery of the Bhagavad-gītā. And here I'll have that immortal verse. I think it's in this chapter, maybe in the 4th chapter, next chapter. He who understands action in inaction and inaction in action is a wise man. What is that? You know, action in inaction. Well, action in inaction, even if you're just sitting, you're not doing anything, you know, but you're thinking of sense gratification, or maybe you're watching a video. You're not doing anything, you know. You're doing something, and you're going to suffer some, you know, karma. But a devotee who's very active, he's going around, he's sweeping, he's going out in Sankirtan, he's going in Harinam, he's cooking, cleaning. That's inaction, because he's not doing it fruitively. There's no fruit of desire. And the result of that action is freeing him from the bonds of all of the fruitive work that he did before. You see that? So you can't tell really if externally. It's all a question of the consciousness. Why are you doing it? What is your consciousness? What is your intelligence as you perform the action? That's why it's Krishna consciousness movement. Ultimately, it's a question of consciousness, which is, after all, what happens at the time of death. Whatever consciousness you cultivated, you can't do much more. You know, that's you either suffer or enjoy the result of, you know, progress in Krishna consciousness. So here in this chapter, one of the most important verses coming up on the 9th verse, I remember it especially because it's a little editing pastime. Yagyartad kamano nyatra lokayam karma bandhana. That first line means, let me just share this with you because this is where I live, and I'm trying to clear up some of these things so the understanding will be there. Work is done as a sacrifice of Vishnu has to be performed, otherwise work causes bondage in this material world. Well, we pretty much understand what that means, but if you think of what it actually means, I think of, okay, here's a pious Indian family. Just think of Gaur Keshav and his family, okay? Now, in their schedule, you know, she comes and cooks, he comes, the kids play, you know, they're doing plenty of devotional service. But imagine that they were really pressed for time, and so they didn't have so much time they could spend, but they can come Saturday morning and do some service. So they'll have the kids cleaning the temple, you know, and his wife will be cooking, and Gorkesh will be practicing Vedanga or whatever. And so they're all doing work for Krishna. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu, for Krishna has to be performed. Otherwise, so they said, okay, we did it what we could. You know, this week we've done work for satisfying Vishnu. Therefore, our work will not cause bondage, whatever else we do. You see the problem? It's the subject and predicate. What this means transparently, and it's said explicitly in the purport, and work has to be performed as a sacrifice for Vishnu. You see the difference? Work is the subject, not work as a sacrifice for Vishnu. The work is the subject, and the predicate is, you're describing that work as a sacrifice of Vishnu. Anyway, there's an example in the CC of it also. So that has been accepted and everything. Work has to be performed as a sacrifice of Vishnu. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material. That's perfectly clear. In other words, whatever you're doing that is not in Krishna consciousness, that's binding you, because the only other motive is fruitive. You know, it may be for yourself, for your family, for your nation, for whatever it is, but it's not Krishna consciousness. So everything we do is meant to be done as a sacrifice of Vishnu. What are we sacrificing? Our own separate interests, bodily, mental, and, you know, sensual, whatever it may be. You know, no, that's not our impetus. That's not it. You know, the impetus is wholly and solely to give the fruit of this activity to Krishna. Now, at that point, we may not always be thinking of Krishna at every moment, you see. but the ultimate result is given to Krishna. And so gradually you develop where the work that you're doing is helping you to remember Krishna. That's the whole idea. Prabhupada said once that he's, in the early days, 22nd Avenue, I've just created this movement in such a way that somehow there'll be something for you to do all the time in Krishna consciousness. Whether it's working on the Back to Godhead magazine or working at your job. He had Satsu, Dr. Steve, and Brahmananda. They both worked for the city. I think one was a teacher, one was working for the welfare department. He said, no, don't quit your job. Keep the job and then give your money, your fruits to Krishna. Well, how can we do that, Prabhupada? Just give it to me. Oh, I get it. Okay, they'll spend it for Krishna. So they were doing their regular job, but they were thinking, oh, this is service for Krishna. And that burns up any karma. It's just the opposite. It paves your way to go back to Godhead. Whereas anything you do that's fruitive, even in the mode of goodness, that will bring you back to another birth. So, this apparently equivalent instructions, the word eva is in twice there. Vyamashedeva, I think it's not eva, as if, apparently. By equivocal, Prabhupada did not translate the word in the original. He skipped over eva. Twice it's in there, right? Mohesiva.
You would translate either of them?
No.
So Hayagriva put that in?
I don't even know if he put anything in there. I think when there was all one word, Vyamashreneva and Mohesiva, is all one word. Anyway, this will be fixed now, so that it's Arjuna's not he says it's seemingly equivocal. Krishna's not speaking equivocally, but it seemed to be a little self-contradictory. So we're going to, what the chapter, the title is, Karma Yoga. This is an integral part of Krishna consciousness. That you act. Arjuna, the result of Krishna's preaching, Arjuna fought, right? He used his intelligence, his mind, his senses, everything, all his skill, to fight this battle because Krishna wanted it. And the ultimate good was that Dharma would be reinstituted in the person of his elder brother, Yudhishthira. People would be so much benefited. That's the whole idea. Krishna consciousness is meant to engage all of our being, all of our assets, beginning with the intelligence, because that's where your faith resides. That you believe enough so that you're ready to study, you're ready to practice, you're ready to check it out. That's why Adau Shuddha. There's a wonderful set of verses by Rupa Goswami describing the stages from it's like a ladder from faith to love, from Shraddha to Prema. And it's worth going through really quickly. Adau Shraddha. In the beginning there has to be some faith. Now this isn't pure faith. This isn't, it is a little, some interest, respect, like that. That brings you into the association of devotees. That's the second stage, sadhu sangha. And when he wrote this, it meant actually physically coming together. And nowadays it can be media involved. Books weren't really happening in those days, en masse certainly, So it meant coming together. And that's the most potent form, to physically come together, have a kirtan, discuss the shastra here, like that. But so sadhu sangha, and then you become inspired to do a little bhajan kriya, usually chanting, begin chanting. Let me try this chanting. Get some beads, and then you come through the kirtans. So a little faith, and then your faith is nourished as you practice, because if you're doing it right, you're getting some realization, you're getting some result. So that goes on, and then if you're fortunate, you get to a point where you really want to become serious and take initiation. That's the way it's described. So that's called bhajana kriya, doing the bhajan. And while you're doing all this, anartha nivritti, the heart is becoming purified. Lord Chaitanya's immortal word, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. The chanting, the chief sadhana, purifies the heart, the consciousness. So that's happening, anartha nivritti. And then you get to the point of firm faith. It's called nishta. And this is described by Lord Chaitanya. Shraddha shabde vishwas kohe sudadhanishchoy Krishna bhakti kole sarva karma krita hoy. One of these important formulas. That Shraddha means firm, unshakable conviction that by practicing Krishna consciousness, all my aspiration will be achieved for success in this life and everything. That is firm faith. And so and it goes on. Now, as you're doing this, you're developing more ruchi. The next stage is ruchi. Nishtha, that you're practicing and you're becoming more purified, an artist. And ruchi means everything about Krishna consciousness becomes more tasty, because attractive. Especially the chanting of the holy name and the Shastra and hearing and chanting. So, and that matures into asakti, which is the direct attraction for Krishna, personally, which is, what you have. And that goes on and gets deeper until you really taste bhava, ecstatic, love, and matures into prema. And there's varieties of prema too. But it starts with faith. And that faith is nourished by association. As Lord Kapila Dev said in his famous verse describing this, who is the sadhu, satam prasangan, by associating with these sadhus, satam prasangan mama virya samvido, you're going to hear glorification of my glories. He's Krishna. Mama virya samvido, bhavanti ritkana rasayana kata. And this hearing of these purely chanted glories is like a life-giving elixir for the heart and for the ears. It's so pleasurable. And what's the result of that? Bhavanti rikarmasaya tad joshanat ashu abhavarga vartmani. On this path of liberation, abhavarga is, I won't get into all that, how to explain that, but abhavarga means liberation from birth and death. Following this path, quickly you develop three things. Shraddha, your faith becomes deeper. Shraddha, rati, attraction to Krishna, and bhakti, which here means prema bhakti. Anukrimashati, step by step. It's all there in that one verse. And in the next verse, I'm not going to chant it, but it says at the end, this is the easiest type of yoga. You don't have to go off to the Himalayas. You don't have to practice the pranayama. That can help your health a little bit, You just come together, chant Hare Krishna, stay for Bhagavad-gītā class, or have the Bhagavad-gītā, then have the kirtan. And you've just, polished the heart. You're developing. And then you're becoming attracted to Krishna. And then every so often, there's these wonderful festivals like Govardhan Puja coming up. Those who haven't experienced it here are in for a treat. It really is the highlight. You're surrounded, it's obviously Govardhan Leela, And this Leela Sar, she does amazing things with the mountain, you'll see. So, any final comments or questions before we end with dessert? Our little poem. Okay. So let's see. All right, this is one of my old favorites here from the Padyavali. Padyavali is not totally by Rupa Goswami, but it's a collection of his favorite verses, almost 400 of them. Some are written by him. Within the Padyavali is where we find the Shikshastika, scattered throughout. Lord Chaitanya did not sit down and write the Shikshastika as 8 verses. You can usually tell, there's other collections like this, when there's no 9th verse, the 9th verse usually tells you what you get, the benefits you get from chanting and hearing the Ashtaka. Anyway, so one of the verses in the Padyavali describes the qualities of those who are always hearing and chanting, like Srila Prabhupada about Krishna. Aho ahobir nakale viduyate sudha sudhara modanam pade pade dine dine chandana chandra shitalam yasho yashoda tanayasya giyate. Because at every step they drink a flood of wondrous nectar sweet, whose cooling power sandal paste enhanced with camphor can't defeat. They feel as if the raging blaze of Kali's days had ne'er begun. How blessed are they who fill their days with praise of Shri Yashoda's son. And you see, that's exactly what Prabhupada did. That's what the great devotees do. They just either speaking or writing, or dreaming about writing and speaking, and just glorifying Krishna for their own benefit and for the benefit of everyone else. And therefore, there's so many things going on in this Kali Yuga. The climate change, the mass murders, the wars, just hearing about it makes you depressed. But if you're always hearing and chanting, and then you're ready for it, whatever happens. I mean, every one of us has to face our own little apocalypse, right? When we die sooner or later. So let's get ready. The best way to prepare is to become as Krishna conscious as possible. And maybe, just maybe, we'll go back to God in this very lifetime. We should try it. There's no loss, there's no diminution. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari. Okay, we will resume next week with text 3. I got both of them. I got the pink one, I got the magnet. Unless I lost it. Where is it? Okay.